peer pressure is huge. And even if a kid has incredible morals, solid values, their parents brought them up right, you can do whatever you want. At the end of the day, if there's peer pressure, if there's social pressure, if it's going to win you some status, it's going to win you a laugh, you're going to do it. 1 second. You're going to MAGA for 2 weeks. Because okay. Why don't you just go with a sign saying, desperate Hasmo boy? We very much grew up in a London community where we really felt that Sephardim were looked down on. Second class citizens, they had a different colour skin, their parents had funny accents, they cooked funny food at home. Parents are not growing up. And a huge problem that teenagers are having is because their parents are living like teenagers.
Did anyone ever view Chazak and your work with teenagers as being too modern, too light,
100%. Too
liberal? You know, can you not speak a little bit more about Gehenna?
I've been doing this 15 years. I really know teenagers. Rabbi, what do? My kid doesn't keep Shabbat. I just found out. How did he find out? Because stupidly the kid didn't clock that his Uber account is connected to dad, and his dad clocked. And he says, what do? Almost every time I have a conversation with parents who are dealing with a struggling teen, I will tell them, I'm going to ask you to do the hardest thing in the world, and that is nothing.
Hello and welcome to season 1 of Bridging the Gap, the podcast where parents and teenagers come to understand each other better through honest, respectful conversation. In each episode, I sit down with someone who has a unique window into the teenage world. Whether it's a parent, a teacher, a coach, or a teen themselves, we talk openly about the things that often go unspoken: mental health, peer pressure, technology, identity, spirituality. If there's something here that speaks to you, please do hit the subscribe button. It really keeps us going. In today's episode, I'm joined by Rabbi Yitsi David. Anyone who has spent time around Chazak or within the wider Sephardi community in London will likely know his name. Rabbi Yitsi has played a huge role in building what Chazak has become today, setting up programs in schools, helping establish the community centre, and creating spaces where young people and young families can grow in their connection to Torah and to each other. He is also the Rabbi of The Kehilla, an exciting and growing shul built around young professionals and their families, creating a space where the next generation of the community can build meaningful Jewish lives together. What's striking about Rabbi Yitsi is the blend he brings, a real charisma and warmth, but also a deep humility and genuine love for Torah and for people. Over the years, he has taught hundreds of students, guided young families, and together with his wife has helped many couples reach the chuppah. But more than anything, he's someone who builds, building people, building programs, and building community. Tonight, I want to explore the story behind that. What led him into this world, what he's seen along the way working with young people, and what he's learned about the challenges facing the next generation, particularly in the years after the teenage stage, when many young adults are trying to figure out who they are and where they are going. This is Bridging the Gap. Welcome, Rabbi Yitsi, to the podcast.
Hey.
It's been a long time in coming. Trying to secure you as a guest.
Should have been first, let's be honest.
You don't know when we're bringing this out. You might be the first one. No, but I do really appreciate you coming on. We've known each other for
long time.
Well over a decade now. Long time. I personally have a karas tov because I think my teaching career definitely started out with Chazak, definitely in the informal area. And so
we take no responsibility.
Yeah, if anyone's watching that. I do really appreciate that. And we'll talk more about Chazak when we come onto it, but let's dial it back a bit for the viewers. Let's get to know the real Rabbi Yitsi David.
Let's go.
Well, what is it that brought you into this type of career?
So it's a good question. I think actually when I was younger, my brothers used to bully me by saying, "You're going to be a rabbi."
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was that bad.
You don't strike me as the serious type. I don't take that in an offensive way, but like as in...
No, I know. I don't really know where it came from. I always had a passion for teaching, always had a passion for people. And I don't know, I think when it was already before yeshiva, where I got involved with different organizations, I was always like classic madrich material. So on a year 9 trip to Israel, which I got kicked off, obviously, they gave awards to everyone on the last night. Obviously I wasn't there, but someone was there to receive the reward for me, and I was voted most likely to be madrich.
Okay.
So apparently people who get kicked off are likely to end up in roles of leadership. So I always sort of had that passion. I was always quite sociable, had a great friendship group, liked helping people, and I think going to yeshiva really sparked my passion for Torah. Before that, I was an avid, still am, Rabbi Tatz fan. Probably heard every lecture he's ever given 15 times, which made me really appreciate the depth and the beauty of Torah. And then going to yeshiva, I was sort of the guy who was trying to be makar of the people who are not yet where they should be in yeshiva.
What yeshiva were you in?
I went originally to Yeshivat HaKotel, which today is known as Nativ.
Okay, all right. Yeah,
Nativ L'Mafreya.
Yeah.
And I didn't go to Hasmo. I actually went to Emmanuel College.
That I did know.
And I was the only person that I knew going to the yeshiva I was going to. My friends did not go there. Had friends who went to Aish, had friends who went to Base, Rabbi Kalani, and I went to Kotel on my own. And I went with a bunch of Hasmo boys. Let's just say I wasn't the greatest fan of Hasmo boys back in the day. I played for HMH, and all the Hasmo boys played for SBZ, and we didn't really like them. They were the frummers, and they were better than us. So that was really painful. So my job was to play dirty, and to foul. So my arch enemy was their right winger. I was a left winger. He was right winger, and he was better than me. He was stronger than me. So I took him down every match. And Hashem made it that he would be my chavrusa on the day that I turned up in Yeshiva Kotel. We were really good friends until today. It only worked because he's a mensch and he had good midas, even though I didn't. And clearly looked beyond my teenage years and didn't judge me for all the terrible things I did. So I think that really sparked my passion. I always had that passion to teach, always had the passion to be around people, and yeshiva really struck the passion in me to appreciate the depth of Torah and want to share that with people.
I hear that. That's yeshiva is quite a pivotal moment, I think, for a lot of people. But if I try and jump in a bit deeper, straight into your teenage years, and because you work with you have done for many years. Do I say decades? Have you been working with teenagers?
But yeah,
we won't put it on record.
Yeah, over 20 years.
Wow, over 20 years. Is there anything back then in the struggles that your generation had that's still around today, or maybe you'll pick something that's different? What was going on then? Give me the year. Was it in the 90s? I don't want to embarrass you. Was it the 90s?
Yes.
Okay, it was the 90s.
Yes.
So I'm yet to be a teenager in the 90s. What were the challenges then?
I think the challenges for teenagers never really change. Ultimately, being a teenager is all about your social life. It's all about social status, peer groups. It's just now it's very different. And those days we used to actually go out and have physical social life. Nowadays people just sit on their phones and social media. We still play video games, but just not for 15 hours a day. A little bit less, a couple of hours a day. There wasn't even FIFA in my day. It's called Pro Evo on the Super Nintendo SNES. Anyway, wow. I think the challenges were definitely very similar. Social challenges, drugs was definitely a big thing, always is, for teenagers. I'm sure we'll touch a little bit on that later. It definitely starts earlier than it did back then. But I think that was always it. It was always, school life is all about the academic and about the social. And the social challenges that teenagers have is something that is exactly the same today and as true today as it was back then.
Yeah, there's a huge pull, but we'll talk more about specifics, things like drugs, I'm sure will come up at some point. But there is a huge pull of social status that will cause people to do things that, you see it in adults, but I guess adults often have an impulse switch where they can go, maybe yes, maybe no, but teenagers, if they will get social status, almost anything else is out the window.
100%. Peer pressure is huge. And even if a kid has incredible morals, solid values. Their parents brought them up right. You can do whatever you want at the end of the day. If there's peer pressure, if there's social pressure, if it's going to win you some status, it's going to win you a laugh, you're going to do it.
Yeah, no, 100%. Is your business or product just not being seen? Then this is for you. Bridging the Gap is reaching thousands across the Jewish community on Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. Every episode is cut into short clips and shared across all platforms so your message gets seen again and again. And because it's a podcast, it doesn't get missed or thrown away like a flyer or a newspaper. It stays. If you want your brand to be seen across the London Jewish community and by thousands across the globe, email sales@bridgingthegappodcast.com and speak to one of the team. Coming back onto Chazak, so people know Chazak as what it is today. Baruch Hashem, it's grown exponentially, I think is the correct word to use. How did it start? Tell me back to the beginning.
So the truth is, before Chazak was an organization, it was actually just a summer trip. I was very involved in my teenage years. I was very involved with Aish, and then I was a madrich for Aish for a few years, and I felt that they do an incredible job in everything that they do, trying to teach Torah and show the beauty of Torah to people who've had very little exposure, if not any exposure to Torah. And I felt that what they were offering was incredible and beautiful and amazing, but it was just a shame that it wasn't on offer for people from a more, call it, traditional background. I felt the people who grew up in community like my community, Hendon, Sephardi community, who have, very strong Jewish identity, a very deeply ingrained emunah, and keep, various levels of Shabbat and kosher, a person like that really needed what at the time Aish was offering. So I actually went to, there was something, I don't know if they still do it, something called the Partners Conference, which is where Aish branches from all around the world take different students and madrachim and different people to come together and listen and learn about leadership. And Rav Noach Weinberg Zatzal was always there, and he'd stand up and, give everyone amazing, inspiring talks. And then we had some meetings with him, whatever it was. And I remember, and I went up to him at the time and I just said, I think what Aish do is absolutely incredible, but I just think it's such a shame because the same thing should exist for people who do know the basics of Torah and Judaism and tradition, but don't have the depth to it. I actually said to him that, I don't know how from you want to get, but I actually said to him, the people you're dealing with are Tinnik Shanishba. I said, the people I want to deal with know better. So if anything, they need it much more. And he said, I think he said something along the lines of, I agree, like not fully, I don't think they need it more, but I agree it should be equal. So I said, I want to start something for them. And he said, go for it. So Chazak started, I was in my second year of yeshiva. So I was 19 years old, and I felt I wanted to create a trip similar to the Aish Fellowship's model, which is basically just a trip to Israel for a couple of weeks. I decided to make it boys only. I just felt like it's a completely different dynamic when it's just boys. So I wanted to do a boys only trip, not exclusively Sephardi. It never was meant to be exclusively Sephardi, but for people from a more traditional background. So I had 3 Hasmo boys that I had in mind that I wanted it to be for, and a group of JFS boys. I still remember the day I called one of the ringleader of the Hasmo boys, because it was him and his 2 mates, and he would get me some others. And I called him and I said, this is the idea, I've got this trip, it's going to be incredible, I've got it all planned, I've got the dates, are you in? And he goes, yeah, it sounds wicked. But he goes, we've just booked MAGA for 2 weeks. I was like, no. I'm thinking in my head, what am I going to do?
How old are you at this point?
19.
That's young to be arranging that trip.
So I'm running a trip for 17-year-olds. I was 19 years old. So I was devastated, and then I just had Hashem just put this amazing idea in my head. I said, 1 second, you're going to MAGA for 2 weeks? Because yeah, go. Why don't you just go with a sign saying desperate Hasmo boy all over your forehead? Because what do you mean? I go, no one goes to MAGA for 2 weeks. You go for 4 days. What do you mean? What do you mean? Right? And I basically convinced him that you're an absolute loser if you go to MAGA for 2 weeks. I said, call up your travel agent, change your tickets, change your holiday, go for a week, come back to London, jump in the mikveh, and jump on the next plane to Israel. And he did. He changed his dates. He came with a group of friends, and then I called up one JFS boy, and I said to him, if you get me 9 other JFS boys, you can come on this trip for free. He was my recruiter. Baruch Hashem, he got me 8 other JFS boys. So he still paid, and somehow, miraculously, I ended up with, I think it was like 26 boys.
Wow.
It was crazy. It was really crazy at the time. And obviously I had to have some more senior people.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's a lot for you to take on and all of that.
Yeah, so it was, obviously I had back-end help running it. I brought Rabbi Daniel Rowe, the legend himself, to run it, meaning to run the educational side and help me. It was a big challenge in terms of sort of having to be some form of authority, but only being 2 years older than the kids was obviously really hard. So there was a lot of confrontation on the trip. A lot of amazing stories happened on that trip. But it started then, and it started as just a summer trip, and it ran for many, many, many years.
And what were some of the biggest challenges as you're building this organization? What were some of the biggest challenges you had? Just from, I guess, like, you know, there's a lot of people starting out with new things, this being one of them.
Yeah.
You know, what are some of the challenges you had, or were there moments where you hit brick wall, like, this isn't going to work?
It's definitely. I remember, first of all, not really wanting to come back to England. And then after being convinced by our blessed Rebbe Berkovitz, this is an Ace Rotzen, and you have to come back, and whatever it is, and the Sephardi community needs you, and that's what you're built for. So after my wife and I made that decision, you know, once we convinced ourselves we were coming, it was literally like last minute. I think I had my quote-unquote pilot trip on Shivas of B'Tammuz, and we moved back straight after Tisha B'Av. So within 3 weeks, we were living in Israel forever, moved back to the UK. It was crazy.
It's a hard landing.
It was a very hard landing, but because it was such a big decision, we landed really like rearing, ready to go. And I remember the first few months even just being like frustrated because it wasn't something that existed yet, and we needed to create something from nothing. We had to build relationships and try and see what problems exist within the community and how can we find solutions and what strengths we have and abilities we have to do that. And I kept just going, it just wasn't working out. Like, one of the first jobs they gave me, which I really didn't want to do, was to try and start a Chazak tour. So the trip we do is for year 12 to year 12 and 13. They wanted to do tour for year 11. And I was like, I just don't think I can do that. So it was really difficult to be told to do something that you didn't feel was possible, and then find out that it actually wasn't possible. It was really, you can't compete with FZY, let's be honest. I'm talking about the type of kids that we were pitching to, were kids who would have gone on FZY. FZY had 15 buses. Yeah, so they had like hundreds and hundreds of kids. No, come with us with 25 kids. Like, are you mad?
Yeah.
So I'm going
and the infrastructure and everything.
Correct. So that was something that was really difficult. And then within the communities that we're working with, it was difficult to build trust with communities that you weren't just going to take their kids and steal them away or do something. And, you know, and they didn't really want to let us in. That was a big thing.
Is that schools or shuls or both?
Schools, there was already an infrastructure. Because Roy Farag had been working for Aish in the schools department, he already had pre-existing relationships and infrastructure. He himself had a very good name. But shuls was really difficult because shuls are very nervous to let organizations in. The other challenge really with shuls is just that kids don't want to go to shul. It's not cool to go to shul. So having to build the inroads and relationships with the shuls, to build the trust, to then somehow get the kids to want to come to shul, which is just not a fun thing to do. A lot of kids really don't want to do. That was definitely challenging. And then I'll tell you on a very Chazak level, meaning on a very Sephardi level, but this is true for Ashkenazim as well, is one of the things that till today we really struggle with, trying to build sort of a Sephardi, at the time, very focused Sephardi organization, is what makes Sephardi is the beauty of the tradition and the culture and the heritage. But the other hand, that's also what puts off the average 15-year-old.
Yeah, it's a hard balance.
They don't care about the tunes. They don't want shuls to take 4.5 hours. They don't care about all these things. So on the one hand, you're trying to bring people back to their heritage. At the same time, you want to change it in a way. You don't want to lose everything, but you also can't keep it going in the same old-fashioned way. So to find the right balance between making it engaging, but not leaving the tradition and the rich culture behind was something also really, really difficult to find that balance.
They say when the world gets darker, Jews add more light. So maybe this week it's time to check your mezuzah on your door or the tefillin in your bag. At Mezuzot Beitecha, we offer trusted mezuzah and tefillin sales plus professional checking services to make sure everything is kosher and complete. For all BTG listeners, there's a 10% offer on all checking services. Just quote #BTG listener to book your slot. Just WhatsApp us today with details in the description below. All suffrage checked by Rabbi Ben Dansky under the Manchester Basin. Did you find that? Because it's not. I mean, I from what I look at Chazak is they've I guess cracked the code in a sense, is what most organisations are trying to do, and often sort of competing in the same field. You spoke about that with Tor. Like there are lots of organisations in the same space.
Yeah.
How is it that Chazak managed to engage teenagers on such a good level? This is a different question to the find the balance one. If you can answer both.
So I think we tried very hard to only employ people like yourself who can really, really relate to the kids and be real and be genuine. So it happens to be you'll end up employing people who are always back of the bus type, who weren't necessarily the straighter shooters in school, but that comes with a relatability.
Yeah.
So literally just last night I was out somewhere. I was trying to have a quiet dinner with my wife, and I was at a table next to a group of students ex-students from a particular school, like some young, not from guys, and one of their friends who's with them is a guy who'd become from. And I could half overhear the conversation, talk about, what it's like to be religious. And anyway, so halfway through my meal, the from guy turns around and goes, I know, he's a rabbi, let's ask him. Which is something I get the whole time, let's be honest, right? You think, what are they going to ask you? Anyway, so he asked literally the most awkward question ever. The non-from guy who's sitting with him turns and goes, so Rabbi, can I ask you something? My friend explained to me that you are in the world of bringing people close to Torah. Can I ask you, so how do you do it? What makes it successful? What are your tactics? And I'm like, okay.
On a quiet night out with the wife.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, but also he's asking the question, so how do you get me? Right?
Yeah.
So I've learned, obviously, over the years of being a rabbi, you learn that there's always a question behind the question. Right? Where's the question really coming from? When someone says to you, why did the Holocaust happen? Why did bad things happen to good people? Whatever it is. Yes, people have that question on a philosophical level, but a lot of the time the question really is, my girlfriend just dumped me and life sucks right now. Why is God such a whatever?
Yeah.
So I asked him, I said, can I ask you, what do you really ask? I said, where's your question really coming from? He says, it just happens to be, my dad is actually getting more involved in Judaism now, and he has this amazing relationship with this rabbi, and I just feel like my dad just loves this rabbi and will do anything he says. So I want to know, how do you get people to just love you and want to, So, and I answered him that, honestly, I think you just need to be real. People need to know the reason why your students love you, and the reason why, Baruch Hashem, so many of the Chazak educators and people in this field, and loads of the rabbis, teachers at Hasmo as well, in particular, the students love them because they know that you care about me. Yes, we're in a school and we have to play by the rules and whatever it is, but ultimately I know push comes to shove, you're my rabbi. And that comes from a place of genuine care. I'm not in this job because I view it as a job. I'm not in this job because of money. We all know no rabbis are in a job because of money. We do this because we care. We genuinely care about people. And I think that's something really important. I think that's, we've had tremendous siyata d'shmaya, but I think one thing we really try and always do is be real with people and show people that we care. The other thing that we've tried to do, and this comes from a place of why we really started, is growing up as a Sephardi in a very Ashkenazi world. I lived on a road in Hendon where I think there were like 3 other Sephardi families. I did not know a single one of my neighbours on my street, and I lived there my entire life.
Really?
Yeah, they were just...
They didn't want to talk to you.
We didn't chat.
Yeah.
We really. So we very much grew up in a London community where we really felt that Sephardim were looked down on, second-class citizens. A lot of my friends did go to Hasmo. A lot of friends of mine from my shul went to Hasmo, and they really felt that they were second class, and people looked down at them as immigrants. And the reality is, most of my friends, all of our parents were not born British, right? So it doesn't mean they didn't speak English at home, but they were different. They had a different colour skin, their parents had funny accents, they cooked funny food at home. So it happens to be I had great friends, and I personally didn't suffer that in a huge way. As in, from my own friends it was great, but I had times, I remember being 14 years old and Simchas Torah walking to an Ashkenazi shul, and one of the kids tripping me up saying, "Your kind don't belong here."
You serious?
Really?
That's so horrible.
Obviously I turned around and I punched him in the face, but
Yeah.
but no, so that was a real need that I felt needed to be dealt with. And it was amazing because Rabbi Farach and Rabbi Levi are both coming from New York, right, where Sephardim are kings, right? Rabbi Farach from the Syrian community, Rabbi Levi from the Brooklyn community, where Sephardim in America, like, Flatbush, Brooklyn, Deal, New Jersey, like, they're kings. And they come to London, they're like, what the heck? Sephardim here, like, trodden on, they're treated like nobodies. So a big motive of Chazak was for people to be proud of their heritage, meaning let the Sephardi kids feel a pride in who they are, and let Ashkenazim learn about who we are and understand what we stand for, and understand that we're not different, understand that, it's great and it's cool and it's amazing to be Sephardi. And I think that's actually, Baruch Hashem, something we have really achieved. Today it is cool to be Sephardi. I really think so. Meaning when we had a youth minyan, one of the things I did is I started a youth minyan. In my day, there was not an Ashkenazi in the world that would ever step foot in a Sephardi shul, ever. Maybe if it's his best friend's bar mitzvah, he'd come. But otherwise, it never. We made it a thing that we had a Sephardi minyan, a teens minyan that was run by Sephardim with Sephardi nusach, Sephardi legs, and half the minyan was Ashki. That's crazy, right? BBM today, Baruch Hashem, is Sephardi Bet Midrash, and half the place is Ashkenazi. Which is amazing. That would never have happened back in that. I remember someone said to me a few years ago, it's so amazing how, like, all these new Sephardi shuls have just, like, popped up out of nowhere. I was like, really? He said, yeah. I go, how long have you lived in Hendon? It's just 40, 50 years? I said, oh, so when you say the new shuls, you mean like Od Yosef Chai? He goes, yeah. I was like, who's been around for 38 years? Like, but Hey Chalea, next door to Chalea. He goes, yeah. 32 years. Oh, Parat Yosef goes, 25 years. Like, how did I never know these exist? Literally didn't know they existed. But today, Baruch Hashem, we have the Chazak kids, you have the Sephardi kids, and their Ashkenazi friends want to be involved. For me, that was a massive challenge that we started with, and it was a massive success that, thank God, we were really blessed to be able to do in a way that it's all, I joke about this, but there is a lot of truth to it. Is you walk in today on Shabbat in the BBM Shabbat Minyan, which is a Sephardi Minyan. The Ashkis will come during the week; they'll never come on Shabbat. Yeah,
bit too intense.
Yeah, bit too intense.
Yeah,
but you come on a Shabbat morning, and 80% of the Ezrat Nashim are Ashkenazi girls who married Sephardi boys. That would never have happened 25. It was so rare for a Sephardi to be accepted to marry an Ashkenazi back in the day. So rare, and today it's much, much, much more common. I think it's.
Kol hakavod. I mean, I've been on the inside for a long time, and I don't know most of these things. I don't think we ever had time to chat when I was working for Chazak. But it's good. It's important that there is that shift, because I think it's fantastic. I learn in BBM, unbelievable place, and its growth as well. And I remember when I used to run the Chazak Youth Minyan when Rabbi Levi couldn't be there, so I used to step in. I had not a clue what was going on, but the boys ran it, and it was brilliant.
Remember, we told you when we employed it, you can't be Rabbi Birnbaum, you can be Rav Doron.
No.
Rabbi Doron sounds nice as Sephardi.
I need the deal. So let's move on to more particularly now the work that in terms of teenagers. So first of all, just straight out of the bat, is there something you saw or Chazak as general saw that school wasn't giving the teenagers? Like we need to step in here?
Yeah, I mean, we had this question the whole time. Is it something that schools are doing wrong, or is it just something innate in the fact that you're in formal education?
Yeah.
You're just never going to be able to achieve the same that you could in an informal setting, which is why today every school in the world has an informal educational department, because people have finally seen the value to something informal. And when it comes to Judaism in particular, it's not meant to be academic, meaning it's not meant to be a book that is studied to pass the GCSE, right? Torah is your life. Torah's Chaim is meant to be your life. And therefore, when people do it as a GCSE, or even if they do Gemara in the mornings, whatever it is, but as soon as it just becomes something that you have to do, you're going to relate to it in a completely different way. And that has been a problem for many years. And that's something that we felt. You have to get in there and get the kids to see Judaism for the beauty that it is, for the way of life that it is, in an informal way, that what we call the neshama of Judaism. Let them appreciate the beauty of Torah, the beauty of meaning when they view Judaism, they look at it and say, oh, so it's, it's all about Gemara, and it's about an ox goring another ox, or it's outdated, it's archaic, or it's all about halacha, it's about Shabbos. Don't do this, don't do that. Life's supposed to be miserable. And we know, obviously, as from Jews, that's 100% not true. But you can't blame the kid for feeling that when they're in a very formal, structured setting, and Judaism is shoved down their throat, so to speak, even in the nicer school. Mm-hmm. So whereas when you show them the beauty of what Shabbos is meant to be, and the depth behind Torah, and the hashkafa, and the neshama of it, and the beauty of it, it's completely different to what they've expected, what they're used to.
I mean, with my school's hat on, though I'm not going full defensive mode, I will say like you've acknowledged that there is more of an understanding now of the informal education that's needed.
Yeah.
I can only speak for one school per se, where we definitely try and build in as much of that informal, but there's limited in what you can do. And that is, I'm a big believer in the need for both. I think the fact that we have a plethora of after school programs available for the kids is important. The fact that kids can actively choose where they want to go, whether it's Chazak or other organizations, then I think it's definitely the value of informal education is massive.
So something I was going to touch on before, just when you asked about the changes from when I was growing up that I've seen today. It could just be that, when we're kids, we're naive, we don't really see what's going on. But I actually feel today, one of the big differences is that parents are not growing up. And a huge problem that teenagers are having is because their parents are living like teenagers. Meaning, some of them, again, it depends on levels of from kind, all these sorts of things, but some of them going out, clubbing, drinking, more than their kids, right? I'm talking about it used to be like a standard thing that parents on a Saturday night are waiting up for their kids at 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., wondering where they are. There are parents going out till 5 a.m. on a Saturday night.
Really?
Mental. But even when you don't go so extreme, but it's kids, teenagers sense if there's a genuine love and passion for something from their parents. That's 100% true. And therefore, kids really sense when their parents are struggling with Judaism. And when your Judaism is not real and genuine and neshamadik, kids see straight through that. And more we see that kids who are really struggling with their Judaism on any level, even people who are traditional or not so from, or more from, whatever it is, I'm not into levels and labels and all that rubbish, but whatever level it is, they see in their parents that they don't believe in it, or they're not genuine, or they don't care about it enough, and kids will see straight through that. So many times, I was just speaking to Rabbi Eden about it the other day, so many times talking about these kids with their struggles, and what really comes out is their parents don't care about Shabbat. Their parents don't care about shul or tefillin, or in my day, whatever it is that your parents did, they did with passion and conviction. You mentioned a Sephardi home. So a Sephardi home is, you put on tefillin every single day, come what may.
Yeah, I just want to clarify what I meant when I said Sephardi home in the question was not about there being parents. I meant was that in terms of Sephardi home being maybe too traditional, like you said before, and staunch, and maybe it has to be done a certain way. Well, that's something that you have. But finish what you were saying first about in terms of the parents being on shaky ground.
What you would see in those days in a Sephardi home is you would see an incredible level of emunah, whether they knew halachas, if they knew on
kiss the rabbi's hand,
kiss the rabbi, tremendous respect for rabbanim, tremendous emunah, and whatever they believed in 1,000,000%.
Yeah.
And you saw that in them, and there was Mesiras Nefesh for it. Today you don't see that. Today you see in parents, they're playing games, and kids see straight through that. They see, dressing a certain way in one place and another way, like just so many contradictions in their parents, and they sense the lack of emunah in their parents. They sense the questions that their parents have, and that's a crazy thing. And that's something, again, it could just be that I was naive growing up, but I don't remember seeing that. I don't remember parents becoming less religious. Today, again, whatever level they're on, but the whole time you see parents becoming less and less religious as their kids become teenagers. It's crazy. People go clubbing with their parents, so what on earth?
Yeah, I've not heard that. Wow. Okay, but then I guess on the other hand, can you argue that it's maybe parents are being more genuine? Maybe they feel more able to be genuine in front of their kids and what their struggles are. The other generation maybe didn't.
Yeah, so the challenge is not when you're being genuine. The challenge is when what you're expecting from your kids is not genuine. So we're at this level, but because of our neighbours, because of our shul, because of the schools we want to get into, we have to pretend to be this. Right? Now, don't get me wrong, back in the day people used to do that as well. So many of my friends went to Hasmo, lied through their teeth, their parents lied through their teeth to get in.
Yeah.
But that's because it came from a place where these parents desperately wanted their kids to be in a certain school, because even though we didn't keep that level of religion, we value that level of religion. I want my kids to be in that environment. So they lied through their teeth to get in. They pretended to be Shomer Shabbat. They pretended to be fully kosher, and they weren't. Today it's not that. Today it's we want to be on a certain level so that everyone thinks we're this and so everyone thinks we're that, and that we can get into the schools that we want to get into so that we can tick all these boxes and pretend to be something. But we don't really care. And I don't know. I just see the kids really, really struggle with that.
So the issue of, and this is where I was going before with the other question. What about the fact that Chazak, did anyone ever view Chazak and your work with teenagers as being too modern, too light,
100%.
Too liberal? Can you not speak a little bit more about Gehenna, a little bit more about...
Yeah. So we had a couple of really big challenges in that respect. Number one was when we felt that shul, for a lot of people, especially the old school Sephardi ones, just to put it nicely, didn't talk to teenagers. Like, let's be frank, sucked royally. So we felt your kids don't go to shul anymore, right? So let's create a youth minyan where your kids come to shul. What is it, pushback? No. The old school Sephardi parents said, no, my son comes to shul with me and he sits next to me for 4.5 hours and doesn't talk, right? Oh, he's not coming. He hasn't been to shul in 6 months. It doesn't matter. I'd rather him not come than go to your flaky, half-baked, 2-hour youth minyan. So that was a lot of pushback that we got. And yeah, we did get a lot of people feeling that we were, you're making shul too quick and you're enticing people with certain things, and that's not what it's all about. People need to learn that you just have to,
what will Sephardi Jewry look like in the future if this is how you're, and bringing them up?
And you're losing the tradition.
It looks like BBM. That's what it looks like. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was definitely pushback. At the beginning, the old school Sephardim would not take Rabbi Levi and Rabbi Farachi seriously because they had no bid. They said, if you have no bid, you're not Rabbi. And they really, really meant it. Like, who are you? A modern guy with no beard. Wear blue shirts and pink shirts. Now, Sephardim not Haredi.
I know, yeah, that's the thing.
The view of a Gadol or a Talmid Chacham is someone who dresses the part. So you dress down, you go by your first name or, whatever it may be, and you wear a blue shirt or you have no beard, like, you're not rabbi, you're barely Jewish, right? So that was definitely something.
How'd you push through those challenges? Because I've had similar challenges in certain areas, also the big kickback on certain things. What gives you the strength to push ahead?
You have to know that you're right. You have to know it cannot come from a place of ego or covered. It has to come from a place where you genuinely believe that you know better and you know what these kids need. And this person, this old school person or this other rabbi or whoever it may be, is an amazing person, is a credible person, and you respect them for who they are and what they value and all those things. But you also understand that they are massively out of touch. And you have the ability, because you're younger or you come from a different world or whatever it is, that you understand this teenager much better than he ever will, and you know what this teenager needs. And even though everyone's going to shout at you and everyone's going to have a go at you and everyone's going to try to put you a chayil, doesn't matter. You know what this kid needs, and that's going to be the best thing for this kid. And by the way, and you'll have that, we have that with parents the whole time. Parents don't like the way that we're dealing with their kids, but we know that's better.
For years, Northwest London's thriving frum community has had limited options for high quality fitness in a comfortable, separate environment. That's why the Fit Loft was created, a purpose-built boutique fitness studio with expert instructors and professional classes for men and women separately, all focused on 3 simple goals: building strength, improving fitness, and losing weight. Regular exercise doesn't just change your body, it boosts energy, improves mood, reduces stress, and helps you feel your best every day. And now through our partnership with the Fit Loft, you can enjoy an exclusive one-time offer: 10% off a 10-class pass for the ladies' studio and 10% off a 6-class pass for the men's studio. Come and experience what it's like to move better, build muscle, and transform your health right in the heart of the community at the Fit Loft. Details are in the description below. If you as a parent, your school, shul, charity, or organization is facing challenges around teenagers, Bridging the Gap Consultancy provides strategic support built on years of frontline experience, from youth engagement audits and program development to staff training and complex family dynamics. The goal is simple: helping organizations and parents better understand and support young people. To arrange an initial conversation, visit the link in the description below.
I have that with the morning program I run called Base Chazak.
Yeah.
And although no, it's not affiliated with Chazak, but I would be very proud if it was. But I get calls from parents the whole time saying, like, we really appreciate what you do, but like, we're really not happy that he's with you. And like, I understand, and I often say, but you know what, you got to be the long-term game. And if you've got a kid that enjoys the Yiddishkeit, enjoys the environment, and enjoys the atmosphere,
100%.
He may not learn 25 Tosos in this year, but in the long game, and this is my feeling anyway, is that you work with the person where they're actually at, where they're genuinely at, not where they're pretending to be at.
Yeah.
And then you can build.
100%. I have this argument the whole time with parents where they believe we are fundamentally wrong in our approach, and they really don't like it, and they question it. I remember I did for the Chazak trips, it got to the stage where we had to do like parents' evenings and like Q&A for parents before the trip would go. Parents wanted to know what it was all about. So it must have been just after COVID or something, because we were doing a Zoom parents' evening. And I started by saying, I've been doing this 15 years. I really know teenagers, right? I understand your kids. Every single kid is coming on this trip. I know them well.
You would turn people away. I remember we had conversations where you would turn people 100%.
Away. So we know the kids that are coming. We know the level that they're at, which very often the parents don't know the level they're at. And so I started with that, and I said, so you may perhaps not like the approach or disagree with certain parts of the approach, but I'm not saying this to blow my own trumpet, but this is coming with experience, and this has really been thought out. First thing I started with was, so the beginning of the day, there is an optional shacharit. And one parent just lost it, like straight away. Like, Rabbi, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I strongly disagree with it. And just went on this whole rant, which I've had a million times in my life, right? I don't think you know what you're doing. Do you have experience with teenagers? Do you know what you're doing? Well, I really, really, really disagree. getting it, fine. And it went on and on and on. I just said to her, look, I understand that you disagree. I said, but there's just two different philosophies in life, right? You may believe that the best thing to do to encourage your son to stay from is to hold a gun to his head and force him to do mitzvot. I said, I don't believe in that. I believe that if you're lucky, through that mahalach, he will do whatever mitzvahs you want him to do while he's under your roof.
Yeah.
But as soon as he leaves, he's not. Until it comes from him and a genuine one, which might mean him going through a stage, of not doing certain things, but it has to come from a place where he wants to do it. Otherwise, he'll never do it.
Yeah.
And she sort of like heard it, and she's like, I still disagree. And then the other parents actually said, you know, they said, Rabbi, Baruch Hashem, you know, that's why we're sending our kids on your trip and not hers. You know, like thank God that they backed me on that. And I said, and this is anecdotal, but this is the type of thing that really happened so many times. I remember one trip, it was the beginning, and we just arrived, and you're giving sort of the intro and telling the guys the rules and whatever it is. And I mentioned that we encourage, of course, I literally have to remind parents that sometimes, like, yes, we want kids to do mitzvahs, like, and we encourage them to daven. We just don't force them to daven. So I started by just telling the guys, you know, these are the rules, this is the schedule, whatever it is. You know, we strongly encourage anyone who wants to wake up for shachrit, the madrich will wake you up and tefillin. But you don't have to put on tefillin. I think it's amazing if you put on tefillin. It's the most beautiful mitzvah in the world, and we'll learn about why that mitzvah is so special. But nobody is going to force you to put on tefillin in the morning. And at the end of the trip, this boy comes who's from a really, really from home, and left from school to less from school, ended up in Hazmo, which for his parents was like the most goyish school in the world. And he came to me at the end of the trip. He says, Rabbi, I want you to know something. Because of you, I put on tefillin every single day of this trip. I was like, I was because of me. So what did I say? He says, don't you remember on the first day? I said, no. He goes, you just said you don't have to. He goes, I can't remember how long after my bar mitzvah I stopped wearing tefillin. Because but 100% by the age of 14, I was not wearing tefillin anymore. Today he was, whatever it was, 17 and a half. He said, I just put tefillin on every day for the first time 3-4 years.
Yeah.
Only because I just said, you don't have to.
I'm a big believer in that. I think we've got to bring Bechira back into Judaism. Bring Bechira back.
Look, it's very, very, very hard because you do have to. It is, of course, healthy to give your kids choices, but they may make some very, very wrong choices. And you also have to guide them, and finding that balance is incredibly difficult.
But from the age of, definitely we can say, sorry, from the age of 13, there has to be a balance that's found. It can't just be control.
Yeah, has to be a balance. Cannot be control. But there also do have to be boundaries, right? It's not just a free-for-all. It's not just do whatever the heck you like, right? You have to find the boundary, and that might be different for each of your children. You have to find out, but at the end of the day, it's going to come from a place of what they see in you, right? I remember I was doing this is something that also I'm just a big believer in. I think what makes Chazak quite unique and people like yourself. I was asked to do during COVID. I was asked to be on a panel for teenagers. So it was myself and two therapists who were like, you know, the best people and whatever. So first thing that happened was they sent me the questions. So obviously when you ask people to send in questions, no one actually sends in questions. So the panelists make up the question, or the organizer makes up the questions. The organizer sent me the questions. I looked at the question, I was like, this is an absolute disaster. So I called the person who asked me to be on this panel, who was one of the organizers, and I said, you know, the other organizer just sent me the questions, and I absolutely hate them. I think they're terrible. Can I be honest? And he says, yeah, you can be honest. So I wrote back to this organizer, and I just said, look, every question you've asked about teenagehood and how can we deal with teenagers came from the perspective of the parent asking, how do I get my kid to do what I want? I said, I don't believe in that. I said, if we're doing a panel for parents, our goal should be, how do we get parents to understand their teenagers? How do you understand their perspective? Put yourself in their shoes. And especially when it came to something like COVID, the parents' perspective was just, oh my gosh, they're going to fall back in their education, and how do we get them to do their work? Do you understand for a second what your kid is going through? Do you understand how difficult it is for a teenager to be locked up all day, to have no social life? Understand just for a second what they're going through. Put yourself in their shoes for 1 second. But they don't. People don't think like that. So on the panel, one of the questions was asked, the parent asked, my son is COVID, my son just become bar mitzvah, this was after our questions, it was live, so people asked questions. He said, how do I get my kid to put on tefillin every single day? So I said to one of the panelists, I said, I'm going to give my answer, and then you're going to do damage control, okay? He says, but I'm going to be honest. I said, that's a great question. Can I ask you something? Do you put on tefillin every day? So he said, yeah. I said, yeah, but how do you put on tefillin every day? Do you just go is it a 5-second drill on and off as quick as possible? Or does your kid see in you a genuine love for this mitzvah? Because until he does, you can shout at him as much as you want, you can force him as much as you want, it's not going to work. Right? I was doing another panel once where it was exam season, and a mother asked, how can I make my kid revise for his GCSEs? So I said, okay, again, I'm going to be honest, you're not going to like my answer. I said, I don't know you at all. I said, but I'm just going to guess something here. I said, my personal belief is that when you're talking about 16-year-old, right? I said, you can't make your 16-year-old do anything. I said, but my hunch is that as soon as your 16-year-old gets the feeling from you that the reason why you want them to do well in their GCSEs is because you want to tell everyone that your kid got straight A's or whatever it may be, or 9s nowadays, they're not going to revise. But if your kid senses from you a genuine care from a mother to a child, from a father to a child, that I care about you, and I care about what everyone thinks, I know what you are capable of, I know what your personal best is, I know what you can do, and I really want you to do well for you so that you can succeed, because for whatever reason I believe in this educational system, they're much more likely to go away and revise. Now, easier said than done. It's very easy to all right, then let's just chill. Let's just do nothing. Don't tell your kids to do any mitzvah. Obviously not. So you have to find the right balance. But what the common denominator is, your children need to see in you a genuine care for them, for their well-being, for their social life, for everything. Not just how are they going to be perceived by your friends, how they're going to be perceived by their friends. You need to really care for them and care less what other people are going to think, and care more for what your child needs from you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I'm now thinking about my own children, is that it's hard because it sometimes comes at a point where we all bring to the table our own expectations. I always think back to when I did an FA Level 1 football coaching course, and they showed us these videos of parents on the sideline going mental at their kids, like absolutely mental, and they explain now we know, because you don't have that anymore on Sunday League. I go to my son's Sunday League games, and they have, I think it's once or twice a year, they have quiet games, so where the parents can't say a word, you can only just clap, that's it. But I remember as a kid growing up, you would have the parent who had a dream to be a professional footballer, and now is vicariously reliving that dream through their kid.
100%. I always tell people, I think this is really true. So my wife and I, obviously, we teach a lot of couples before their weddings. And a lot of the intro to marriage is about the challenges and what, living with someone. Men and women are so different, whatever it is. And I tell them, there are going to be two hugely challenging relationships in your life. One is the spouse, and one is as a parent. So parent to child, and husband to wife, wife to husband. So, but they're completely different. What will push your buttons, what will trigger you, what will rub you up the wrong way about your wife are your differences, and what will trigger you in your child are your similarities. Meaning, what the challenge of marriage is someone who's so different from you. Women think different, feel different, act different, and the avoid in marriage is to how to figure out what's challenging about a child is when you see your weakness, your chisronot, your challenges in your child. And that's when your relationship with your children, each child is going to be so different. Because what really bothers you about that child doesn't bother you another, whatever it is. Because what you see in that child is, I'm always struggle, used to be massively inconsistent. So what drives me mad in one of my kids is inconsistency. And it's like, it's obvious, right? Because that's my trigger, that's what bothers me. And what happens is parents are living through their children. It happens the whole time with Baalei Tshuva. Parents who become Baalei Tshuva, who become from, then become the most like heavy, overbearing parents on their child. Because I didn't get an opportunity to learn Gemara when I was 9 years old, so you have to learn Gemara. And they freak out, and they're not getting 1,000% on their tests, and they're going crazy. Because just relax. Yes, Baruch Hashem, your child has opportunities that you never had, right? And you get the same thing with people who didn't come from money and people who value education, and it's all the same thing. But when you want your child to succeed where you couldn't, it doesn't come from a healthy place. It can, right? It can be like, oh, wow, my child has this opportunity. I want him to appreciate the opportunity that can come from a very beautiful, wonderful place. And your child can value that. Wow, I'm so blessed, right? But to be lectured 400 times about like, when I was growing up, I didn't have a penny to, that doesn't do anything, right? To lecture them about how lucky they are to learn Mishnayos. You have to do it in the right way.
I remember once speaking to a mother who was a Baalei Tshuva, I think is that a correct term? She was saying this idea that she never had the opportunity, and I remember telling her at one point during the conversation, I mean, for most of it she was shouting, and I just remember saying to her, yeah, but at some point you chose. There was a point where you had a choice point, you chose. Let him choose.
Yeah.
Let him choose. But and it's come up a number of times on this podcast, is that the difficulty is, and you've got to let go. Yeah. And to let go isn't easy. And I have to be honest, my kids aren't teenagers yet, so it's all very well preaching something. Yeah. Will I be able to practice it? I don't know.
It's very hard.
Your kids are teenagers, so you can.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's not easy to let go.
I think almost every time I have a conversation with parents who are dealing with a struggling teen, I will tell them, I'm going to ask you to do the hardest thing in the world. And that is nothing. Just stop. Meaning every time you want to say something, don't say it. Now, yes, you have to give them love and you have to give them unconditional, but in terms of the way you normally react, you see them doing something or you hear them you can't, because they're not going to take it from you. They're not going to hear it from you. Like, one of the really difficult things about the work that we do is Baruch Hashem, we spend years and years building a really deep, trusting relationship with teenagers. But in order to gain their trust, they need to know that you'll always take their side. You'll always be on their side. You're never going to snitch on them. You're never going to report them to
really hard.
A therapist or a parent. And you're not going to tell their parents anything, right? And that's really hard, because the parents really... And you're sitting there, and I have these parents talking to me about, they're so worried because their child isn't, davening 3 times a day in a minyan. Meanwhile, I know the kid's not keeping Shabbos and he's going clubbing, right? I can't say anything because I don't want to lose the trust of the child. And it's a really difficult thing to do, because you're taking on a huge achrayus. You're making that child now your responsibility, right? Because I often say this to parents, is that whether it's about myself or someone else in the organization, I have to say, like, the most difficult thing about being a parent right now is that as a parent, you can't do anything. But you're so lucky that your child has a trusting relationship with Rabbi Birnbaum or with Rabbi Aiden or Rabbi Levy or whoever it might be. And you need to know that they are looking after your child and they're going to be guiding them, and your child confides in them and they're going to guide them, and you just need to let go. And that is so difficult for a parent to do, but it then puts a huge achrayus on your shoulders. You're taking on this kid, and you know their parent. Now, by the way,
you're also taking on risk that you can't control, because, as we said, the kid will make decisions.
Yeah, of course, 100%. Yeah. And again, that it doesn't mean you're not telling the parent he's never going to do anything wrong.
Right.
And I'll think about one parent now who, and this was a really strong Sephardi parent. Yeah, to the extent that someone we know from a certain organisation who's a master at chinuch had never really spoken to a Sephardi crowd before. Anyway, so he posed a question at chinuch, and he says, so this scenario, whatever you do, so what do you do if your kid doesn't listen? And this Sephardi man in the audience, not old school. I'm talking about the guys, today's kids are teenagers, yeah? He's in his 50s. So he said, so the question was, what do you do when your child doesn't listen? And the guy goes, what do you mean? Because, no, what do you do if he goes, what do you mean he doesn't listen? Because him it was, what do you mean? And it was like that. I tell my kid to do something, and he does it. Until his kid got to 14, 15, 16. And now he's calling me saying, Rabbi, what do I do? My kid doesn't keep Shabbat. I just found out. How did he find out? Because stupidly the kid didn't clock that his Uber account is connected to dad, and his dad clocked. And he says, what do I do? Now he's not in kol hakavod to his parent because he so went against everything that he knew. He said, just tell me what to do, Rabbi, and I'll listen. But tell me what to do. And I said, you're just going to have to listen, and it's going to be really difficult. Do nothing. Say nothing. Trust the system. I said, I know you're a kid, and the only reason he trusted me was because he had an older kid who went through the same thing, who, Baruch Hashem, Siyat Shmaya, ended up in an amazing place. And because he saw that when it came to the next kid, and I said to him, I know right now he's 15 years old, I said, but I started teaching him, I'm building that relationship with him. We know what we're doing. You're right, he may go through 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years, where he's doing things that you don't agree with. But Bezrat Hashem, trust the system, and he'll get there. And thank God he got there. But what I'm pointing out is it was the most difficult thing in the world for that father to not say something, to not go crazy, to not say, I caught you and how dare you and da-da-da-da-da-da, right? But he did, and it was incredible. So it is a huge responsibility, and they need to know it's not going to be perfect. And just because we're looking out for him doesn't mean he's going to do everything you want him to do. It doesn't mean tomorrow he's going to turn out okay. But hopefully after a year, 2 years, whatever the answer is, he'll end up being a much healthier, happier adult than you think he can be.
Imagine walking into a room designed just for you. At Enchanted Murals, we believe any wall in any space can be transformed into something truly magical. From nurseries and bedrooms to schools, business offices and feature walls, we create beautiful hand-painted murals tailored just for you. Every design is custom made with creativity, care and a personal touch. Bring your walls to life with Enchanted Murals. Book your free consultation now. Details in the description below.
Yeah, I remember once talking to a kid who was a teenager who told me that he was trying to keep Shabbat, or he was whatever, and then Friday night meal didn't go well, and there was a massive rap, and he got annoyed at his dad. So he said, so I went upstairs, slammed the door, and went on my phone. And I turned to him and said, what? Why'd you do that? Like, what did God do? And he couldn't understand the question. He thought it was mental. It becomes so intertwined in his parent, like the things that his parents put on him, like clean your room, go to school on time, do your homework, keep Shabbat, do tefillin, be tznius, whatever it is, that for him there was no separation between parent and God.
100%.
And I remember speaking it with another. I'd be interested to hear your opinion on this. Is that I was speaking it through, I think, with another guest that we had on, and it was. Do you think the way that people have a relationship with their parents, does that also sort of copy and paste onto the way they perceive God?
100%, for better or worse.
Yeah.
And what that means is that the system that Hashem created was built that way. Meaning, one of my favourite ideas is, there's a famous question everyone asks, are we allowed to say Divrei Torah on this podcast?
A few, because if you cut it out anyway. If you don't.
So one of my favourite ideas is, everyone asks the famous question when it comes to the 10 Commandments, so Sarah's Dibras, so it's supposed to be Bein Adam L'Makom Bein Adam L'Chaveru, 5 and 5. And everyone asks the famous question, number 5 is in the wrong place. Number 5, Kibbutz V'Ev, on your parents, surely that's Bein Adam L'Chaveru, it's interpersonal relationships between you and another human being, not between you and God. Why is it on the wrong side? So there are many different answers, but my favourite answer is, the reason why we have parents. What does that mean? It means the reason why Hashem created a system where the world works, where a child is brought into the world through birth, through being born to a human being, to a mother. The reason why Hashem created that system is so that you will better understand how to relate to Hashem. What does that mean? We all struggle with how to relate to Hashem. Everyone struggles with that. I can't see him, I can't smell him, I can't talk to him, or when I talk to him, I don't hear him, doesn't talk to me, right? He's not physical, he's not tangible. That is really difficult. So Hashem put in this world something called parents. When you are a parent to a child, that child now is supposed to learn the concept of authority, hierarchy, respect, hakoras hatov, appreciation, right? Learn to have thanks to someone who's given everything for, whether you like me or not, whether I did a good job or not, but I've given everything for you, right? So Hashem built that into the system that now you do that, now that you understand what a parent is, you can somehow better understand me. So Hashem created a system where you're supposed to relate to Hashem through the way that you relate to your parents. The problem is when that goes wrong. The problem is, and I've seen this many, many, many times, is when a person has a bad relationship or a dysfunctional relationship with a parent, they cannot have a healthy relationship with Hashem. If God forbid, in a situation of abuse, if a parent is abusive, people view God as a megalomaniac, someone's after honor, or abusive, or treacherous, or wrong, or evil, because the only concept they have of authority, of hierarchy, of someone who's supposed to look out for me, is someone who is abusing that trust. So too, if a person puts rules onto me, and where those rules come from is just do as I say, and if you do it, I'm happy, and if you don't do it, I'm sad. You think, oh, when I do an Aveira, Hashem is sad. When I say a bracha, Hashem is happy. It's not how it works. But that's how Hashem has built the system, because as parents, what we're meant to do is not create a robot, not create someone who just follows rules, right? My wife and I do chinuch courses. Well, really my wife does a chinuch course and I sit there a lot pretty because she knows everything about chinuch, not me. But one of the most important things we explain to parents is the first two intros we say is, number one is, the most important question you have to ask yourself in chinuch is, what are your values? What are you trying to be mechanech them to? What is chinuch? Trying to grow up, you help your children grow to what? What do you want? If you don't know your values, your children never know your values. Number two is the way that you get children to be what you want them to be, which is a healthy adult, is teaching them to make healthy choices. So already from a young age, give your child the ability, which you've touched on many times, give your child the ability to make a healthy choice. Meaning, parents force their kids to wear certain things. Give them a choice. Even if it's simple. Today, do you want to wear the blue one or the green one? Do you want to wear this? And what you do is, and then you reward and commend their good choices. Wow, I see you chose so well. I love what the decision and what you're doing. You're filling them with the confidence that, wow, I could make a choice. And wow, when I did this choice, it worked out well. And sometimes, yeah, you make a choice and it ends up bad. And that's okay. We'll deal with that. But teach your children to make choices. Don't control them.
I literally had a new boy came to my class today, my Gemara class. And we're like halfway through the year now. So he comes in and he's new and he goes, so where do I sit? I don't know. He's like, what do you mean, where do I sit? I said, no, in here, that's your first choice. He's like, and he looked at me like he's really didn't know what to do. Like he's looking at the back corner.
Are you messing?
Does he go to the back corner? Does he not? And I said, no, that's your choice. Choose, but don't. But then I said, but then you can't get upset with me if in 10 minutes' time you get kicked out because you couldn't learn. This is your choice. You make a good choice, the rest of the lesson's going to go well. And sometimes they choose well, sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
But I definitely think we've got to build that in. I want to move on to some of your, let's say, newer work. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
As Rabbi of The Kehilla.
Yeah.
You just celebrated your first year.
Yes.
Which is fantastic. The new shul for young professionals, is that the way you're calling it at the moment? But there's clearly, and this is probably what BBM was born out of, this understanding that, Chazak is always trying to solve the problems of the community at large, which we greatly appreciate. One of the big things is that you do all this stuff for teenagers or whatever, and they go off to yeshiva, and then they come back on the boat, and then what? Yeah. So describe to me, I guess, what are the problems that you were beginning to see that made you want to start the Kehilla, and then maybe we'll go from there.
So the general idea started sort of from two places. BBM was more, it used to be, again, in my day, I know we're making ourselves sound very old, we're not old, but it used to be that for a Hasma boy that was struggling, whatever it may be, the goal is be mechazek them, help them out, get them to yeshiva, help them go to yeshiva that's right for them, get them to be there for a year, sometimes they'll be there for 2 years, but 2 years in a yeshiva, they come back to London, they're good to go.
Yeah.
They're healthy, they're doing well, they're going to learn, they'll go to the evening base, they'll go and learn somewhere, wherever it may be, and they're good to go, and they're great. Keeping Shabbos, keeping kosher. Some of them will learn every night, and some of them will learn once a week, but they're solid.
That was probably only true in your day, not mine.
So already about, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, it became a thing that people were coming back from Israel, from yeshiva, even after going for 2 years, and within 5 minutes of being back, they're almost unrecognizable. It was crazy. Yeah. So that's what made us feel that we needed to start something called BBM, where people who were coming back from Israel, or just people who wanted to learn, needed more of an infrastructure, they needed more support, they needed more guidance. And then the other place it came from was, and this is more the Kehilla, as Rabbi Farachi turned around to me once and he just said, Yitz, you do teenagers, right? He goes, you can't hold that kid's hand for 10 years, 15 years. He's like, you've got to do your thing and let go. And I said, I 100% agree. That is the dream, right? The goal of chinuch is to create independent people. I said, halavai. I said, but I know that with these people, if I let go, they're going to fall. I said, I can't let go unless there's something set up to pass them on to or to help them in that, whatever it may be. For better or for worse, and I think it comes back to our original point that we're saying about why we do what we do and what makes what we do, Baruch Hashem, successful, is we genuinely care about people. And therefore, when I build a relationship with someone, it's never, ever, ever, you can ask anyone who knows me and has known me for years and years, it's never with an intention or a goal to change them or get them to do things or anything like that.
Tactics.
No tactics. I have no agendas, I have a genuine care for you as a person, for you to make healthy decisions. Now, yes, I believe the Torah is emes. Torah is emet. Hashem prescribed the most beautiful, unbelievable way of life. And therefore, I think there's so much value and so much you could benefit from living a Torah way of life. 100%. But I care about you as a person. And therefore, I build genuine relationships with people. And that's why I have people who I met when they were 14, 15, 16, and I still know them when they are 30. Or I met someone when they were 20, and now they're 35 or 40. I've known them the whole way through. And some of them I knew when they were 15, and I was zocher to walk them down the chuppah, to officiate their wedding, to hold their hand under it, all the way through it, help them out with their children. And now, it's crazy, some of the people I just started off, their kids are becoming teenagers. And I've still got that relationship with them. So the Kehilla was born out of a need that, even again, from people, right? People who had a connection, had a Jewish education, went to yeshiva, went to Sem, whatever it is, were not connecting to Shabbat at all. Right? We found that as soon as a person stops going to shul, they start losing Shabbat. Once again, I'm talking about young singles especially, because when you're a teenager, it's a social or whatever it is, but when you're a 25-year-old professional and there's your one day off and there's nothing going on at shul, so you'll stay home. And once Shabbat just comes staying home, you don't really go down to the Shabbat meal. If you're 25 years old, you're 28 years old, you're not going to hang around with your parents so much. You stay in your room, and then you're on your phone, and slowly you lose Shabbat, and you lose your connection to Judaism. And I know it sounds ridiculous, it sounds extreme, but before you blink, this person's marrying out. And this is someone who comes from home, who went to yeshiva, who went to Sem, who was Shomer Shabbat 90% of their lives, suddenly 25 years old, and they're marrying out. That's crazy. And it became apparent that there is no place that these people feel that they connect, that they belong, that is for them. There's no young shul. It's crazy.
No, I know. I mean, the people that I know that go to the Kehilla have said if it wasn't for that, there's literally nowhere for them to go. I mean, I've always wondered this, whether our community is, and maybe it's for good reasons, is built around families. But the Shabbos experience is a real family experience, which has its pros. But then young singles, they go to Tel Aviv, they have to go, or they go out to America. But here was really difficult.
Every Shomer Shabbat young single will tell you that the hardest part of their life is Shabbat. Being single on Shabbat, this is true by the way about divorcees as well. Yeah, it's really, really, really hard. Because when you feel alone, when it's during the week, you can busy yourself with work, you can busy yourself with watching things or whatever it may be. Comes to Shabbat, being alone is horrible. Horrible. So I felt that a lot of young single people felt just Shabbat was just their worst time of the week. And I felt like it should be like that. Shabbat should be fun. It should be a social. Shul should be a place where you feel welcome, where you're excited to go. Right? We wanted davening to be like geschmack, like fun, alive, thrive. People like love it. And it should be a social. And I tell people openly, and again, it's come back to our previous conversation, people will not agree with this statement, but I tell people, don't come for davening. If you don't like shul, you don't want to come for davening, that's fine. Not it's fine, I would love for you to daven, it would be great if you daven, but if you don't like davening, or you don't want to come for, fine, just come for Kiddush. Come to socialise. I tell the girls, there's no chiyuv to daven in a minyan, so you want to come to shul, great. If you don't, come just for a social. Come and hang out with other young Jews. Zero. And people have told me that that's how they feel. They feel that this is a shul that is welcoming, that is open to them, that no one's judging them, no one judges you what time you walk in, whatever it may be. And because of that, they're coming to shul more, they're coming to shul earlier, they're getting more involved in their davening. People told me, oh my gosh, I've never been to shul so much in my life. I never used to go to shul on Friday night. Now I come every single Friday night. I never used to daven shacharis before. Now I daven shacharis, right? Like, we did Yom Tov. So many people came up to me on Sukkot, either saying, I've never actually been to shul Sukkot, right? Come for Simchas Torah, but not Sukkot. Someone said to me, oh, this is the first time I've been to every tefillah on Yom Tov. Wow. And these are from people. It's not like, I'm not talking kiruv here, I'm not talking, right? But every person needs to feel important, valued, feel belonging, and feel like they can be part of a place that they enjoy coming to. That there's a social, there's something going on. Now, yes, shul should be a party, and shul's not all about that, and shouldn't you be davening? Yes. But understand where people are at, understand what they need, and yeah, over time, you'll get them there, right? It will become more structured and more serious, and people will feel like it's a proper shul, because that's really what people want. But it needs time to get there.
Or that's organic growth.
Yes,
is
100%.
So, and when you're involved with that age bracket, what are some of their biggest struggles they're having other than Shabbat about just living life as a young professional in London?
So focus on teenagers, it's hard to switch in now.
Or can we talk shidduchim?
Yeah. So look, I was just going to say, the biggest challenge, no question, that young singles have is being single. 100%. It's really, really hard for people. Not everyone is so keen to get married, but even the ones who aren't struggle being alone. So what they are really struggling with is how to find an appropriate partner. Like, where are you supposed to go? Like, Baruch Hashem, most of these people don't go clubbing or to bars. And even if they go to like Judos and that sort of thing, it's like, they all will tell you, oh, it's the same people.
Yeah, that's what I hear. It's the same people again and again.
Meeting someone is really, really hard. So if you're in shidduchim is really hard. If you're not in shidduchim, it's even harder. Because you're from enough that you're not going clubbing, but you're not in the shidduch system. So where are you supposed to meet someone?
At the Kehilla.
Yeah, hopefully. Don't have enough women coming yet, so if any single girls come to Kehilla, I've got loads of single guys.
That's Hashem. So I want to wrap up with a few quick fire questions. But before I do, one more I wanted to ask you. Is there one particular, from all these through your 20 years, is there give me one moment that's been like an incredible aha moment? You see someone turn it around. What's the story of someone you can think of that comes to mind where it's gone like?
There definitely have, for me, the most emotional time is standing under a chuppah. So standing under a chuppah with a student, And especially when you're speaking under that chuppah where you cannot say anything that you want to say, right? But you're standing there and you think back, oh my gosh, like I remember what he was like at 15 years old, 16 years old, 17, 18, 19, right? And look at who he is today. And he's turned his life around, become a man, he's got himself a job, whatever level of religious level he's on, but he's turned his life around. He's become everything his parents were so desperate for him to become, and he's just become that, right? And you know deep down, like Baruch Hashem, like no one knows what part you play on anyone's journey, right? And you have no idea so many things, and of course their parents have invested so much, and of course it's partly to do with the parent, and it's huge siyata shema, and it's because of this teacher. But to know that you played a little part, whatever that role is, and it's incredible. Like you're thinking like, wow, it's unbelievable who this person is today, and knowing that you helped a little bit on that journey is just is blow away. Like really amazing. You have like, because it doesn't always go right, so to speak, but so many times, thank God, it really, really does, and it's really not rocket science, right? It's just giving these people love, building their trust, helping them make those decisions, and then when it just works out right, you're just thinking like, oh my gosh, and you look back to this person's life and just think, oh my gosh, what if that didn't happen, or that didn't happen, or that didn't happen? It's just like, it's crazy. That for me is always the moment where I'm just like, wow.
It's worth those late nights.
Yeah. Late nights, police visits, near arrests.
Okay, so I want to wrap up with a couple of quick fire ones.
I meant me, not them.
So if you've got a teenager or a young adult that's listening right now or watching right now, feeling a little bit lost, what's the one piece of advice you'd give them?
I'll say a couple of things. Number one, give your parents a break. Okay? Your parents are trying their best. We're all human. Nobody's perfect. Give them a break. They just love you and want you to succeed. Yes, sometimes they get it really wrong, right? And they say the worst thing, they do the most annoying thing. They're not out to get you. They really genuinely love you. Give your parents a break. Number two, give yourself a break. It doesn't always have to be perfect. It doesn't always have to go right. And sometimes it's hard. And when it is hard, and when you're feeling alone, or you're feeling down, or you're feeling like things are just not going right, the best thing you can do is turn to Hashem. If that's where you're at, if you have the ability to do that, just turn to Hashem. Hashem is meant to be your best friend. Hashem is meant to be someone that you can talk to, that you can converse with, that you know is there, and that he's listening, and just be open. And by the way, it's okay to be upset. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to say to Hashem, I don't understand. Like, why the heck would you do this to me right now? This really sucks. Like, why? Please. And it's okay. Because Hashem would much rather you have a conversation and build that relationship and be upset than have no relationship at all. He wants that relationship. And part of that relationship is their ups and downs. But he wants that relationship with you. He wants you to turn to him. He wants you to give him a chance. So give your parents a break. Give yourself a break. Give yourself a chance. And turn to Hashem.
And if you've got a parent that's listening right now, what do you think it is that, if maybe sometimes their teenager doesn't feel comfortable saying it, what do you feel that they need to know from their teenager?
So the hardest thing for a parent is to try and see things from their child's perspective. Now you have to know, as a parent, we are so emotionally invested that it's almost impossible to see things objectively, right? It's the classic thing. When you're at someone else's house and you see them doing bad chinuch, it's so glaringly obvious to you. But when you're in it and you're doing the same thing, right?
Yeah,
you don't see it. Because you're so subjective, you're so emotionally invested and wrapped up that you don't see it. Okay? So it's really, really difficult to see things. But so either get someone else's perspective, go and speak to someone about what your teenage struggles, or try really hard to take a step back and understand, where is your kid coming from? Like, what's he struggling with? Right? What does he want me to understand? What is it that I'm not getting? Right? Do I see my teenager for who I want them to be or for who they are? Just try and see them for who they are. And stop worrying about what's that one going to think, what's that one going to think, where they're going to be in 10 years. Just be. Believe it or not, your teenager does want a relationship with you. The things that's pushing them away are them feeling that you want them to be something that they're not right now. You want things from them that they're not capable of right now. Let them know, help them to understand that no, I genuinely care about you, and forget what I want from you in the future. What I want from you most is a relationship. And I tell this to parents the whole time, because sometimes parents call me with a struggling teen and they actually have a really good relationship with their child. And they have a very open relationship with their child, right? And sometimes you really don't have that. And I will say to them that the one thing that I've seen more than ever of a kid who makes it, who pulls through and sorts themselves out, is a child who had that relationship with their parent the whole way through. The parent didn't judge them, didn't shout at them, didn't throw them out, didn't do any of those things, but as difficult as it is, was there for them, gave them unconditional love, and the child feels that. When they can maintain a healthy relationship with you, they're much more likely to sort themselves out. They're much more likely to come back. They're much more likely to build that relationship with you. As soon as you close that door and you make it's my way or the highway, or either you do this or you're not well, whatever it is, it's much more difficult for that teenager to find their way out.
Thank you. If people want to find out more about yourself, how can they reach out to you? What's the best way?
Chazak website. You have my email address. Everyone has my number, so you can just call me or WhatsApp me. I don't claim to have all the answers. I don't think anyone in Chinuch has all the answers. We have our own experiences, we have life experience, we have things that we've been through and ways that we managed to help other people. Ultimately, the most important thing, really, I know it sounds so cliche, but really the most important thing is tefillah. The way your child turns out has actually absolutely nothing to do with you. It's all up to Hashem. It's all total bechira. It's their bechira. The only thing you can do is at the beginning you can guide them and you can try and be an example and you can just daven for them. Tefillah. Just daven. So if you want to reach out, I'm happy to tell you what Tehillim to say. Happy to do, help people in any way we can. But yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on. Much appreciate it.
Shkoyach.
Hello again. Did you know that statistically speaking, most listeners of podcasts do not hit the subscribe button? It's a very small press, but it makes a massive difference to us and will literally help us keep going. Thank you so much and enjoy your day.